I don't talk to any of my friends about sex. I don't, some of them don't even talk to their partners about their pasts, about their preferences. And then women started telling me I didn't know what I could have until I saw somebody else have some version of it. And then I was like, oh, that's me.
Welcome back to Talkin About the Taboo, the podcast where we allow curious minds and we dive into conversations that make individuals just more curious and to explore and have conversations that are actually worth having. I am your host, Natalie Malloy, and today we're talking about sexuality, parenting, relationship structures, and those that challenge the norm. And we're also diving into women's sexual research. Joining us today is Sarah Nelson, a researcher, a writer, and a relationship coach based in Brooklyn, New York. Sarah helps people navigate major life transitions and build authentic, fulfilling connections with themselves and others. So, exactly what I'm trying to do here. She's currently working on a powerful book about how middle-aged women are reclaiming their sexuality. This project is rooted in interviews with over 50 women who have redefined their values around sex, pleasure, and societal expectations. Sarah is also in an ethical non-monogamous relationship. Is passionate about exploring what makes diverse relationship structures really thrive. Today's the day where we're challenging people, where we're being raw dogging it. She also has a daughter, and we're going to talk about sex and consent and boundaries and advice for parenting about being open and about what she's learned from these women boldly reclaiming their sexuality later in life and maybe even diving more into how earlier in life it foreshadows. So let's get into it and let's communicate. Mwah. 50 women, one question. How can you reclaim your sexuality? Today we have a guest, Sarah. Hi. Hi, Sarah. How are
Hi.
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm so happy to have you here on the podcast. I think that your energy and your passion into purpose really makes sense to be here. And my viewers are definitely going to appreciate. So just introduce yourself for me.
Well, so I'm Sarah.
Yeah.
I am a sex coach and a relationship coach, but
Woo!
I'm also a researcher and a writer. That's my background. And I have been combining those to find ways to help people be more authentic in themselves and claim their own sense of who they are and what sex should be.
Love hearing that because claiming their sense of who they are. So how I met, for everyone listening, how I met Sarah was is in the Somatica Institute, which is a program we're both taking to be certified in Somatica sex coaching. So I kind of just wanted to get your take on, number one, how you found Somatica, and number two, how you are going to describe Somatica to your clients and how you plan to use it with your clients.
It's a great question. I think it's still evolving for me, but
Yeah, loaded.
so I have been a coach in a lot of forms for a long time, but I've never done a formal certification. And I was thinking this spring about how I could bring everything together, my interests and my skills, and put that seal of approval on it. So I just started digging around on different programs. What I liked about Somatica was that it felt like it hit on everything that I wanted to learn.
Yeah.
I know all of these things to some extent, and I have my own opinions, but it starts with how to build empathy, how to set boundaries. And then it moves into how do you repair relationships when you have a fight, and then gets into the hardcore, how do you coach someone on, women who have trouble orgasming and don't understand why, and they know it's a mental block, but they can't let go of it.
Yeah.
And these are all things that fascinate me and that I've wanted to learn about. And I decided that I wanted to pick the program that I wanted to learn and not just the one that was going to give me the stamp on my resume.
Exactly. Because I think the best part about the Somatica certification is that they know that they're not going to use every single thing that they teach you, but you're going to be able to take it, maneuver it, and still make it Somatica. The thing that attracted me to it most was just that it was structured in a way, like kind of how you just explained, where it's not just all about sex. Individuals, when I tell them, I'm a sex and relationship coach, they immediately go, okay, so we're going to talk about sex. I was doing a practice session Friday, and it was kind of like a couple session, but it wasn't because I can't really do that yet. But I tried the repair conversation with them, and they were like, oh, he was like assuming we're going to talk about sex, and he was so surprised that this worked. Number one, they both cried. Okay, not that crying is good, but they felt validated. But he was just like, I really expected to be talking about sex. And I was like, well, there is the end where you reconnect with your partner. So you are welcome to go get a handy or something if you want. It does go into that. So I think that the best part about Somatica is it starts with the empathy, the consent, the boundaries, the repair. And then we can get into the goody and go into the orgasming and all of that other stuff. So I absolutely agree with you. So what's one thing that you think that you have learned so far in Somatica that you can take into your own professional life?
Oh my God, it's like all things.
I know.
I had a couple come to me and they're interested in opening their relationship, and that was their goal, right? I want to open my relationship. But I listened to them and I was like, these people have no boundaries.
Mm,
And how can you open your relationship in a healthy way if you aren't prepared to tell your partner, look, this just doesn't work for me?
yeah.
And I'm not saying the whole non-monogamy doesn't work for me, but this particular thing you did, or we need to have a conversation. And so I immediately started pulling out the tools that we've been practicing. And it's a lot like you're saying, like what they wanted to do is talk about having sex with other people.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to talk about was, how do you understand what your boundaries are and how do you communicate them in the way we talk about it in Somatica is in a vulnerable way.
Yes. And vulnerability is really hard to teach because, for example, when you're talking to an individual, you're going to give them, you say, okay, so this happened and this happened. Now, how do you speak empathy? How do you speak vulnerability? And I've noticed immediately they deflect. It is actually a really, really pattern for majority of relationships, whatever dynamic it is, for them to deflect. And you have to kind of pull them out of that subconscious pattern that they have, kind of like cop for them. And for those viewers listening, copping means taking accountability for your actions or how you are in a relationship. And so it's really difficult to do that. And especially, for women, we already have a lot hanging on our backs and a lot that we think about throughout the day and a lot of pressure. And so you're coming at us like, I thought I was being there for you. I thought I did say that right. Um, and so I know that you spent months interviewing middle-aged women about how to reclaim their sexuality. And that goes exactly into that, right? It doesn't start with the sex all the time. It starts with the internal work. I really want to hear more about that.
Yeah. So, this is a project that really just came to me one day. I was like, I need to talk to women about their sexual journeys, not their sex lives, not like what positions do you like, but how did you get from being a young girl, whatever age that was, and realizing sex was a thing,
Yeah.
to today? And I'm focusing on middle-aged women partially because I am one,
Yeah.
but also because we're hearing a lot about this now. Movies like Baby Girl with Nicole Kidman, or
Hmm.
some of your viewers might know, called All Fours, which is about a woman who, has this awakening and runs away to a motel to fantasize about a younger man.
Yes.
And these things were starting to create some conversation, but the truth was I would talk to my friends and they were like, I never talk to anyone about sex. I don't talk to any of my friends about sex. I
Yeah.
don't, some of them don't even talk to their partners about their pasts, about their preferences. And then women started telling me I didn't know what I could have until I saw somebody else have some version of it. And then I was like, oh, that's me. I could do that. And I thought, oh, well, if I could just tell a whole bunch of women's stories, then other women could read them and think, I could have that. I know something's off in my life. I don't know what it is, but now I see it. I can have that. And so I just started talking to women. My original idea was to talk to 10 women. And then I got such overwhelming interest that now I have 50, and I'm still going.
I
Um,
love it.
and it's amazing. It's so cool. They tell me such fascinating things. And it's everything from, women who have been with the same man that they married 25 years ago
Yeah.
to women who, got divorced, went on a sexual escapade, did whatever. And it's all great. Like, it's all amazing. They all have learned something about themselves. They all have embraced who they are, and then thought about how they can build a life that is true to that.
So, what kind of questions are you asking to initiate that type of conversation? Because, like, you can easily be like, okay, tell me about your sex life, or tell me how you reclaimed your sexuality. And they're gonna be like, so how do you really gauge that?
I just start with one question. This is my one standard question, which is, tell me how you took control of your sexuality, however you would define that, and
Mm.
start wherever you think is the beginning. And one of the things I love is where they think the beginning is. Some people are like,
Oh.
2 years ago. And some of them say, oh, well, when I was 5, I remember, this time there was this
Hmm.
girl next door and I sort of thought she was cute. And I just go with it. I let them tell their stories until they feel like they've told it. And then I
Yeah,
go back and I ask whatever I'm most interested in, really.
exactly. What do you think, if you're willing to share a little sneak peek, would be one of the most interesting, intriguing conversations you've had thus far with anybody?
Oh,
Even snippets.
um, I loved um, I loved this woman who she's been with one man. I think actually he may be the only man that she ever had sex with. They've been married for more than 20 years.
Yeah.
And just a few years ago, she was feeling depressed. She didn't know what was going on. Like, you need a change in your life. And then she just started making changes, external changes, non-sexual changes. Quit her job, changed her life.
Rock on.
Yeah. And then she started getting interested in, her sexuality and things that she could explore. And she started reading a bunch of books, and she has just found this whole new level of exploration that she never had. This is within the context of monogamy. She has a book on masturbation. I mean, she used to
Oh
masturbate,
my
but she
God.
wasn't that into it. She tried shaving her pussy and took a look and was like, what's that like?
I love it.
She bought a bunch of toys, and some of them she liked, some of them she didn't. Some of them she used with her husband, sometimes she didn't. And I loved that there could be that level of renewal
Yes.
within a relationship that is very stable and safe.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of women, especially middle-aged women, think the only way that I can fix my life is to leave it. And you, for a lot of women, I think they do. I think that they've built something that doesn't work for them, and it's going to be very hard to repair. And
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of those stories, and I think they're really inspiring as well. But I love this story because it's, I think, not what you expect.
Yeah. Yeah, especially, and it's tough with the same person and choosing to explore because it's really comfortable in the simple, right? Moving into new patterns in your relationship and changing things up a little bit. Change is super uncomfy. But if it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. I always say that never lose your daydream. And if your daydream is that you want to use more sex toys, keep going. So I love that you use that story because it really describes to me that there is no timeline and there is no right way to be in your sexuality and to be in your true authentic self, as you say. And it's just such an agreeable story because, first of all, number one, quitting the job. Yes. Thank you. I wish we all could have the funds and the ability to quit our jobs because, oh my God, the amount of self-discovery that could happen. And on top of that, having a husband that is able to explore with you and is open to that too, that's also something that everybody has. And so living in, being grateful for having somebody who's able to help you explore. So was there any interviews for yourself that like shaped your own journey and really influenced your somatica work at all, kind of cohortedly?
Yeah, I mean, they shape it all the time. I mean, I've heard so many different things at this point. It's very rare
Yeah.
nowadays that anyone tells me anything that I haven't heard already, and in some way, right?
Yeah.
And so for my work with Somatica, I feel like it gives me this solid basis. I know a really wide range of experiences. I know, nothing shocks me anymore.
Hmm.
Um, and I also don't have to worry that I'm gonna make some crazy face in front of somebody like, "Wait, what? What was that?" But I learned so much from these women. I mean, they're so thoughtful and they've thought so much about their own experiences. I mean, some of them say to me, "I've never told this story from beginning to end," and it's really cool to get to do it.
Mhm.
Um, but a lot of them clearly have thought about it many, many times, and they they have these insights and I'm like, "Oh, that's me too." Like that's I do that. And um I really love the way that you framed that because that's a vocabulary that I can use for myself.
Yes.
Um so it's as much for me as it is for them, I hope. I
Yeah.
mean, and for the world, right? It's for me because I learn from them, and because I get to write a book. It's for them because they get to tell their stories,
Mhm.
and it's for the world when I publish and everyone can learn from it.
So tell me about that book. How has that gone as well? Do you have a title yet? Do you have maybe a deadline for yourself yet?
Um, I mean, my deadline is tomorrow.
Yeah.
I feel like I can't get this out there soon enough, so it's being held back by the rest of my life, which there's other
Yeah.
things.
Oh, life always gets in the way.
But I what I'm working on is a full proposal and organizing what I've learned. But basically, I'm hitting on themes around a huge theme is around people pleasing,
Mhm.
um, and women's experiences realizing that they were having sex for other people, even if they were getting pleasure out of it, they were thinking of it as goal oriented towards the other person's pleasure. Um,
Mm.
but also themes of sex as healing, both
Mm.
from different kinds of trauma, but also, well, different kinds of trauma, right? So could be abuse, but could also be illness or other
Mhm.
things that affect your sexuality. Sex as a way to connect in a different way that you hadn't thought about before. So
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of us think of sex um, as connection with an intimate partner,
Yep.
but how can sex also be a way to um, build vulnerability with people and then build those connections?
Yeah. So, what do you think if someone were to ask you what your big hypothesis is for your book? What is it? One sentence.
My hypothesis is that even though science says that perimenopause is about a decline in all sorts of ways,
Mhm.
that perimenopause is an opportunity and that you can have the best sex of your life. You just have to seize it. And I've seen it over and over again. And that's my thesis.
That's fucking amazing. That's like that should be the first sentence in your book, because that's your target audience, right? Because you're studying middle-aged women, um, And I think that also coherently goes with also someone my age. I'm 24. And I also am finding ways to reclaim my sexuality. I'm very young. Um, and I have a lot to learn, but I have a lot of trauma as well. And it's sexual trauma that I have to work through. And later on in life, I only hope that that perimenopause opportunity comes my way, and shows me that I really had time and I still have time. I have this sheet of paper. I'm looking at it right now, and it's labeled zero. So like a little sheet, like a little strip, 0 to 100. All right. And so I broke it off at 20. So then I'm seeing a space between 20 and 30. So those are my 20s where I'm at right now, where I'm really trying to reclaim my professional life, my sexual life, everything. And then I have a sheet that says 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So that's kind of where I'm merging into the more where people like to call the sexual goddess era where like sex and your body and you as a woman just turns into something beautiful. It ends at 70 because 70 is the life expectancy in the US for women, the average. And so that shows me how much darn time I have to make it happen. And the number one thing I always tell people is forgive yourself for not knowing the things you didn't know before you learned them. That's as simple as it is. And I really think that is exactly what you are asking people that you are talking to, who you are researching, who you're using as a way to reclaim yourself, your own sexuality as well. So, within your research as well, how has this shifted your own relationship dynamics and your own opinions on sexuality?
You know, I'm on a journey as well.
Heck yeah.
And my journey is also about being more authentic to myself and being more
Mhm.
in my own body, understanding what I want, learning to communicate that more effectively. And I bring that to my all of my relationships, my
Mhm.
romantic and sexual relationships, and my friends and my
And
family
platonic and
as well, my children, everybody. So, and what I've noticed is every day how much more grounded I feel, how much more in myself I feel, how much I can just let things roll off me that used to bother me because in the big picture, I don't feel they matter so much.
Mhm.
Um, and it's who I am now compared to who I was. I mean, it's crazy for me to even think what June of 2024 was like for me compared to now. I'm a totally different person, and it's because of these conversations and because of this reflection
Yeah.
um, and how I've internalized that.
Here's the tea. Dry mouth is a total mood killer. You're mid flirt, mid kiss, or maybe mid other things, and suddenly your mouth feels like it's been air dried in a desert sun. Enter Flint mints. These magical little tabs don't just freshen your breath, taste like grapes and strawberry magic, but they turn your split glands like flipping sexy little switch. One mint and suddenly I'm salivating like I just saw my crush in gray sweatpants. Hint, hint. Whoop. They're really cute. Come in a little cute box. You pull one out. It only like serves you one at a time. It's really cute. I'll share a photo. They don't taste like the mints in your grandma's purse though. Plus, they fit perfectly in your little bag in a pocket, wherever you like to keep things handy. I keep it by the couch because that's where I'm giving head. If your mouth needs a little help getting wet, no judgment, babe, at all. Seriously. Flint's got you. Especially if you like smoke weed and you have dry mouth, and weed sex is amazing. Dry mouth, never heard of it. Flint mints.
And so, what type of relationship dynamic are you currently in right now?
So I'm in an ethically non-monogamous relationship. I have a primary partner. We live together.
Mhm.
We're very, very committed to each other, and we have all different types of non-monogamy. So we date separately with other people. I would say that those relationships for us are mostly low on emotion and high on physicality.
Okay.
And then we date couples together, we date singles together,
Love
and
it.
it's very fluid, and it's kind of whatever we want. Sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's just us, and
Yeah.
other times there's other people involved.
I always like to say this, and it's funny because the book that we needed to read, Polysecure, talked about how some people use that dynamic as a lifestyle and some characterize it as who they are. And from what I'm hearing, it's kind of both for you. But you are not always with somebody else. It is a choice that you both make and consent to and set boundaries to. What led you to explore ethical non-monogamy, and when did this start?
So for me, it's actually, I think, somewhat unusual. My first exposure to ethical non-monogamy was in high school. I was dating the man who ended up being my husband, and he was my first relationship. He was the first person I had kissed. He was the first person I had had sex with. He was the only one, and I had this crush on this other boy, and I told my boyfriend about it. And he said to me, "You know what? I think that you should hook up with him. You don't have a lot of experience, and I I'm okay with it." And he genuinely was. And I did. And it was just going blind,
Awakening.
right? We had no idea what we were doing. We didn't talk
Yeah.
about boundaries at all. We didn't
Uh,
have any conversations about, we didn't debrief on it beyond like,
yeah.
how'd you like it? And it was like a one-off thing. It wasn't a big thing, but he and I and our he and I continued to have, we had a 25-year marriage, and to speak to what you were just saying, like, I think we were always non-monogamous in our heads, but we rarely acted on it. We sometimes engaged in it, we sometimes didn't. But it never, I think, fully went away.
Yeah.
But because we did it with no sense of structure or healthy communication, we had very healthy communication around other things, but not around that. I think as a result, we didn't do it successfully. And I feel like now with my current partner, we've built it up in a very healthy way that I feel much better about.
Yeah. And you also weren't starting from scratch this time. And you had the experience, even good or bad, on your back. And I think even in mistakes, we gain a lot of knowledge. And I think people miss that. Like, what did I learn from this? Was it hell? Yes. But what did I learn? How has ethical non-monogamy, though, as well, changed your core values as a person? Speaking on big thing my viewers are probably asking is like jealousy, jealousy, jealousy. How the hell do you do it? Because majority of the time when I'm talking about it with people, they're like, I'm not sharing. What are you talking about? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. I love talking about jealousy. And I think the reason why I like talking about jealousy is because I experience it so intensely,
Ah,
and in a not good way, in a way that is detrimental to myself and to my partner, and to our relationship. And so I think about it a lot. Um, I think the thing about jealousy is the goal is not to banish it completely,
facts.
because it's
Yep.
an emotion, like all of our emotions, and all of our emotions are valid. What the problem with jealousy is when um, you don't use it for self-reflection,
Mm,
but instead you use it to lash out and try to shut down, right? Try to control. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned for myself around jealousy, is that certain things trigger me. They trigger me a lot. I go into fight or flight. First, I fight. You're awful, and you never should have done this to me. And then I'm
mhm.
like, I think I need to get in the car and go to New Jersey. Have those thoughts, that's when I know, like, oh, no, Sarah, calm down. And I have to take those feelings away from him. I need to process those feelings on my own.
Yeah.
Because in that moment, when I'm in that heightened state, I actually don't have any useful thoughts. All those thoughts, I have a lot of thoughts and they sound rational.
Yeah.
But once I calm down, I realized that a lot of those thoughts were protective. They were not actually what was making me upset.
Yeah.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and over time, I've learned somewhat, not
You're always learning.
to catch myself sooner,
Mhm.
to find other ways of calming down, and then to really dig in and to also hold myself accountable, because sometimes he really did something wrong. And sometimes I just want to control him because that feels good. And, if it's been 6 months and your partner hasn't been on a date because you always found some reason why that particular person wasn't a good person for them, or, now wasn't the good time, well, that's not non-monogamy. And maybe non-monogamy is not for you. I mean, a big thing that I say all the time is non-monogamy is not some kind of more evolved version of a relationship. I'm not superior to people who are monogamous. I just have a different kind of relationship structure that works for me. And maybe non-monogamy doesn't work for you, and that's fine. Maybe you get jealous, and that's fine. These aren't signs that you're doing something wrong. They're signs that you need to listen to yourself and you need to get to the bottom of what's going on.
I think you just sat here and were raw to your own authentic self. That entire beginning statement, and also like I can't even reiterate that because I think that's how the book should start, actually, because I'm telling you, grabbing the viewers is going to grab what they want to know more about and how to help the jealousy. Jealousy is humongous, and you just sat there and said it's going to happen. It may not work for you, and you said it's not some evolved type of relationship. Yes, people think, oh, I have to be this in order to be better. No, it does not work for everybody. And if everybody was doing it, it would just be a normalcy. And that's why it's not considered a normalcy right now, because people have to learn it and do it and understand it and be it and feel it and want it. And then they majority of the time decide whether or not they want to continue it. Thank you for being raw with me. Thank you for being authentic with me. And living an ethical non-monogamous relationship, you have to be authentic to yourself. And I know that you have a 13-year-old daughter. How are you able to, live in that type of relationship lifestyle, do this type of research, be in Somatica, and also be authentic with your child and open up that conversation as well?
She hates it.
Yeah.
I've interviewed her friends' parents. She's not so into that.
That though.
Actually, she doesn't know that, so don't tell her. Yeah. So, it's really interesting because here I am, like, I'm on this like sexual journey, and she's in that phase of like, I don't want to talk about sex. And I think, the way that I feel is she's going to learn so much more from watching me and the way that I am than from anything I'm going to tell her. We might have a handful of conversations about sex. How many conversations about sex do you end up having with your children that are really have any substance to them?
Yeah.
But most of the time, they're just watching you, and they're learning from you as a model. And so that's what I try to do. I try to, to be transparent with her, to be honest with her. If she asks me a question, I tell her a version of the truth, an age appropriate version of the truth.
Yeah.
At one point she asked, are you dating people besides, my boyfriend? And I told her yes.
That's
And yes, and right.
Mhm.
Um, you know, these are some other things that you should know about that. We are very committed to each other. This is a very secure situation. You don't have to worry about it. A lot of times they're not asking because they're not interested in your sex life.
I know.
They're worried about themselves.
It's a selfish question, but it's a good selfish question.
I mean, at that age, all the questions are selfish, right? It's either about like,
How are you
how am
gonna
I going to behave? What am I going to do? Or like, are you going to abandon me on the stoop?
Yeah.
And so, it's about meeting your child where they are. I say age appropriate, but actually there's nothing that's age appropriate. It depends on your kid.
Sure as hell does.
And, kids have all sorts of different developmental styles and rates,
Yeah.
paces. And then it's really about, again, about what I model. And like, for me, a really basic thing is I'm not going to have sex in front of my daughter, but
Exactly.
I want to show that I love my partner. I want her to see that. I want her to see us kissing. I want her to see me coming home and being excited to see him. Because when she looks for a relationship, I want her to look for that kind, the kind where there is that kind of love between you and that kind of excitement to be together. And so, I don't shy away from those things. And at the same time, I don't walk around being like, hey, look at this guy I just had sex with.
Exactly. And two, I love that you said setting the example because your child vicariously lives through you and your partner and the dynamic. And in school, there is this saying that, they're mean to you because they like you. And I don't agree with it. You know why I don't agree with it? Is because then you're going to assume that when your partner's being mean to you, it's because they like you. And then if you grow up watching a relationship dynamic where their partner is mean to them, you just consider it, oh, they like each other. And even in a younger mindset, but also merging even into the teen years, it's still something subconsciously you're understanding. And then merging into your adult years, really beginning to date and date domesticatedly, you're going to also subconsciously assume that that is how it's supposed to be. So you being open with your child is honestly not a pattern we see often. And what advice can you give to parents that feel awkward or unsure or ashamed about conversations like that, or are living in an ethical non-monogamous relationship and just don't know how to not hide it and be secretive? Because kids are gonna find out. They're gonna find out. They're gonna sneak. So, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all comes back to authenticity. You need to be true to yourself and to what you feel comfortable with. But while being honest, right? I would never advocate for outright lying. But I also think that you need to say things that you feel comfortable with, and to do things at a pace that you think is right for your child and right for you, and not what you think is the thing that your neighbor would think was the right thing to do, or how try to quiet those voices that are saying, oh, what if somebody overheard this conversation I'm having with my child? What would they think?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you need to calm down. If you are not comfortable, also think about why that is. Like, are you not comfortable because you're not sure you're doing the right thing? Are you not comfortable because you're worried about those other voices? Are you not comfortable because you actually haven't developed the right vocabulary around this and you aren't sure what to say? All those things stop us, right? All of those things make it hard to talk to our.
Internally.
And number one is forgive yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to do it wrong. There's people listening right now that are like, oh shit, I already did something wrong. Like I just had the conversation with my daughter the other day and oh, I did that wrong. It's not too late. You still have a relationship with your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
You can always go back and you can say something else. You can add to what's already been said. And we're all evolving, and your children are too. And it's about the overall arc of it, not the individual conversations.
Because Giving yourself grace is reminding yourself and also your daughter and any child that this is also your first time living life too. And you also have stuff to learn. And I think any kiddo is going to know that. They know it deep down. And it's something that I validated to my mom recently. And she thanked me a couple weeks later for saying that because she felt like, she's been doing something wrong and, you know, how I grew up and how my dad is. And I was a one night stand baby. So that doesn't explain it, but I don't know. And, she feels a lot of guilty thoughts because she feels like maybe she's not doing it right. And then she sees, my brother and I succeed. We're 11 years apart. And I validated it. And I think because she was able to show me the good and the bad examples and be open about sexuality, just like you are, not lie to me. Now that I'm adult, I know like all of my mom's sexual stories and it's hilarious and I love it. And I open any parent that you can still be your child's friend and their parent at the same time and have a dynamic of both. And I just really appreciate you coming on here and staying true to your hypothesis and staying true to your authentic self. And I really look forward to reading your book. Um, Again, target audience is middle-aged women, but I want a sense of foreshadowing. What do I have to look forward to as a 24-year-old?
Target
In
audience is everyone,
Yeah,
because I think everyone has something to learn. I mean, I think the immediate benefit will come to middle-aged women,
yeah,
but everyone has something to learn.
absolutely.
And what do you have to look forward to? You have look forward, humor, surprise, a lot of vulnerability, and
Scary.
and a lot of validation of things that you've thought were true, but then thought, no, I must not be normal. We're all
Mm.
normal, and um,
What the
and
fuck is normal? I
we
don't know.
all have, amazing stories to tell. And I mean, if anyone's listening right now and wants to tell me their story, they should definitely reach out.
Absolutely. So, how are we able to reach out to you if they wanted to kind of reclaim their sexuality with you and tell them about it? What are your sneaky links?
I have a website for the book. It's powerunderneath.com.
Love that.
Powerunderneath.com is where I'm inviting people to tell me their story. You can reach out to me through that website. Um, but um, but I'm also always happy to talk to people as a coach as well.
Yeah,
I'm at coaching-for-authenticity.com.
I love it. And one more thing.
Mhm.
What is one message that you want to leave to curious folks out there and people who are passionate about dismantling the taboos? What was one thing that you would say?
The one thing I would say is
Mm.
that society has taught us so many things that aren't healthy and don't work for us. And while we
Mhm.
all know that's true, the solution is to build your own reality and your own sense of what's right. So go home and think about, what do you think is right and what do you want to build, and build it.
Ah, holy fuck, that was great. Thank you so much for coming to Talking About the Taboo. I appreciated you. I look forward to just still building a relationship with you in school and things like that. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much. This has been great and you're
Yeah,
amazing.
thank you. I don't know about you, but I feel intrigued, I feel calm, and I feel happy. I'm so grateful to be surrounded by individuals that are like Sarah, who want to be authentic to themselves and want to use that power to help others. As you know, she has her page called Power Underneath, and that's exactly what she's trying to do with her book. After the episode, we did have a brief conversation, and she's like, I wish I said this and I wish I said that. But honestly, you're going to see it all in her book when it's time. And when it's time, I'm excited because I'll be reading it myself. I surround myself with people who know how to communicate and how to communicate proudly. And that is exactly what she did and continues to do in her research, in her relationship, and with her daughter. There is never a dull moment on this podcast, as you guys know. And I love bringing on people who share mindsets of bringing their passion into purpose. I love you all. And with lots and lots of lube, remember, communicate.